I want to also begin by acknowledging that we are gathered together right now in the immediate wake of centuries of violence and murders of Black people in the US and around the world at the hands of police. No matter our locales, we all impact and are impacted by this juncture. The presenters for the Tavola that bring us all together in this moment are practitioners and historians of marine science, and we assemble in recognition of the fact that the struggle of anti-racism must be prioritized throughout all of our contributions to international scholarship and science. Today also marks the beginning of a call to action titled Shut Down STEM, which is an anti-racist initiative led by a multi-identity intersectional coalition of professionals and academics in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and math. Shutdown STEM calls on scientists and scholars everywhere to commit immediately to near and long-term action to shut down the long-sustained undercurrents of racism pervasive throughout academia and the STEM fields. As we proceed with the task of reconfiguring both ourselves and institutions as anti-racist, I want to offer two images as possible points of entry for the presentations and discussions today. These are both drawings by Ernst Haeckel, the German biologist who is frequently credited with terming the coin ecology in 1866. It's imperative to acknowledge, against our current backdrop of a worldwide upwell of protests against state violence and racism, that Haeckel was a prominent eugenicist who promoted racial theories that would later be adopted by the Nazi regime. With the patterning of that history in our present moment in mind, I invite you to look again at these images, which I'm borrowing from Lorraine Dotson and Peter Gallison's book, Objectivity. These are drawings rendered by Haeckel from the cargo of the British warship HMS Challenger, which from 1872 to 76 was a vehicle for a circumnavigational expedition that in many ways laid the foundation for the discipline of oceanography. The HMS Challenger, it should be noted, was converted from military vessel into an ocean-going scientific laboratory and returned from its expedition filled with crates of specimens for scientists to classify in a taxonomic effort that eventually resulted in a series of 50 volumes. Haeckel's own contribution was to make a monograph of the medusae, the creatures that we commonly refer to now as jellyfish, and he illustrated the monograph in a drawing style that fixes both a kind of decorative symmetry and procedural measurement onto these free-floating forms. Now, what strikes me about these images is not only their commitment to symmetry and a kind of Belle Epoque ornamentalism, but also a measured mode of representation that is a baseline for all sorts of technical draftsmanship, including scientific and architectural drawings. When we look at these drawings, we see plan, section, and elevation. Without getting too deep into the history and theory of technical drawing and scientific modes of representation, I thought that we might also be able to reach through these particular modes of representation to grasp our present orbit around the Oceans in Transformation exhibition currently at Ocean Space. The many maps, projections, and data points that we have been learning about and discussing throughout the unwinding of this expedition are concerned with the surface of the oceans and the seams of the shorelines. We see the melting surface of ice, the shipping of people atop and across bodies of water, and the projections of rising sea levels in coastal areas. I wanted to suggest here that many of our conversations on these surfaces and seams have shared a kind of ontological premise with the visual criteria of plan and elevation. Today, what we are adding to our repertoire is depth. We are moving along a meandering z-axis of the water column through the thermohaline circulation of the Atlantic and then cutting through the topography of the seafloor via mid-20th century oceanographic survey and mapping projects. In terms of the drawing metaphors I was highlighting earlier, this second Tavola is the section view of the North Atlantic trajectory. The section view is, per the title of the Tavola, meant to look through the ocean such that we may see the Earth with a new set of perspectives and soundings. We will first begin with Alex, who has invited us all to reimagine a classroom experiment towards sensing the properties of water bodies that drive three-dimensional movement of currents such as the Gulf Stream, but which are otherwise invisible to the naked eye and can barely be imagined on the oceanic scale. After that, we will hear from Fiona, who will share the story of the first seabed map of the North Atlantic created by Marie Tharp in 1957. Its unique physiographic form, necessitated by data censorship during the Cold War and guided by Tharp's skilled interpolation, inspired groundbreaking discoveries that continue to resonate around or throughout the earth sciences today. Then Dr. Vicky Farini will share her unique perspective as head of the Atlantic and Indian Ocean's Regional Center of Seabed 2030, regarding the techniques and conventions deployed to measure and represent the ocean and the gulf between data collection and information.